Hello, everybody. Adam Parks here with another episode of Receivables Roundtable. Today, I am here with my good friend Nathan Anderson, who is with SuccessKPI. How you doing today, Nathan?
Fantastic. Yourself?
I can't complain. It's another day in paradise. Nathan and I often have the opportunity to present together on technical topics, whether it be artificial intelligence, data management, analytics, and a host of other things. You've probably seen Nathan speaking at a variety of conferences around the industry for quite a few years. But for those of you that haven't met Nathan yet, Nathan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to the seat that you're in today?
Sure. So I'm a recovering operations guy. So I've been in the seat of managing, large call center operations. I started in the industry on the phones as an agent, collecting bad checks back in '95. So that really dates me when people use checks. But I've been in and around the contact center space, real focus really around the receivables management space. My last stint before I kind of made the move to the technical sales side was with a company called Account Control Technology, where I was a director of operations there. And then after that, when I made the transition, I was with a company called Interactions, who builds virtual agents. And then made the move to SuccessKPI in July of last year. So it's crazy. We're coming up on a year already with SuccessKPI. It doesn't seem like it's that far, but yeah, that's where a little bit of my background.
Well, for those people that have not heard of SuccessKPI, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do there?
Yeah, I mean, my elevator pitch really is pretty simple. We're an advanced experience analytics platform, and really to break that down is we have the ability to blend qualitative and quantitative analytics, taking not just the action outcome aspects of the contact center, but blending that with what actually happened inside those conversations using speech analytics, natural language understanding, and really diving into or blending across kind of the enterprise, the ability to actually get actionable insights into the conversations across channels, and then add an action engine on top of it to be able to actually operationalize the data.
Okay, which actually plays quite well into the topic I wanted to talk to you about today. Earlier this year, you and I had done a presentation at the Credit and Collections News Conference where we talked with Cody Owens from Equably, and our whole presentation was around kind of data analytics across disparate systems. So for those that are in the receivables management industry, you know that often you have all of these different systems that may not fully integrate with each other. Now, you may be able to pass data back and forth between your system of record or your collection software and your dialer or your compliance management system, but not as frequently are you able to pull actionable insights from across these disparate systems or siloed systems, and be able to create some actionable intelligence from it, right? Because data is one thing, intelligence is something very, very different. So I know that's something that you've had a lot of passion for, and obviously you're spending a lot of time working on over at SuccessKPI. Can you tell everybody a little bit about how you and your team have worked through kind of solving that problem?
Yeah, so the first thing I'll spend a second on is really kind of setting the table of what the real problem is inside the contact center space, and I lump the receivables management industry inside that much bigger kind of sphere of contact center space, and the fact that for the most part, most organizations have built their technology stacks or built their technology ecosystem really mainly around use case implementations. So I don't know if that's a real term, but it's a term that I've kind of coined and used quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where, right, I have a problem, and that problem's coming from a new regulatory restriction that's being applied to me, or a macroeconomic thing where I'm having a hard time hiring or shrinking margins or those types of things. And what organizations do, and rightfully so, is they say, okay, I have a problem. Let's go out to the marketplace, find something that can help me with that problem. And the marketplace is more than willing to create these kind of different types of vendors that are very good at solving a problem. And while that short-term kind of band-aid effect is like, okay, I have a solution to the problem, what it tends to lend to is a growing, disjointed, disparate, system that doesn't work well with each other. And so what we've kind of evolved into as an industry is kind of this duct tape and baling wire kind of Frankenstein effect of a whole bunch of different bits and pieces being kind of shoved together. And now we're looking back and now we're thinking, okay, now I have to figure out what a customer journey is, right? Well, my customer journey now goes across 3 or 4 different vendors, none of which work well with each other. And some of them will never because they're basically competitors. And so you're left with a kind of a hole in your organization to be able to say, okay, how do I really know what's affecting what? How do I know what my next best action is? How do I know what's actually driving productivity and where am I just sinking costs? And so what Success KPI was built around that gap. The fact that contact centers as a whole have just evolved into very, very inefficient organizations through no fault of their own, really. It's just like, I have a problem, I need to solve it. And so what we've kind of set out to do is, instead of blowing the whole ecosystem up and saying, you have to use everything inside my singular ecosystem, which unfortunately there are organizations out there, they will go unnamed, but that kind of force you, right, to live within their ecosystem. That's not the solution that organizations are looking for, right? They're looking for the ability to still have, okay, I want to have this vendor and that vendor, but I want them to work together. And so Success KPI was built around the idea in a pure cloud, pure SaaS model. So, highly secure, highly flexible, easy to do business with architecture, and give that the ability to companies in the contact center space to work with the businesses they want to work with, but at the same time have the ability to actually bring that and have transparency into all those systems. So it's a lot of work to do it. One of the things, right, when I talk about SaaS is the fact that the work usually falls upon the organization that is saying they're SaaS, right? So if I'm an organization and says I'm a SaaS company, but then drops a $200,000 PS fee in your lap, or says it's a 6-month deployment, well, I'm not. That's not what software as a service is. It's I'm going to do the work to make sure that it's easy for you to do business with me. And so when I turn things on, or when you want to do business with me, it should be, for the most part, a flip of the switch, and then a little customization to make it how you want it to, right? So that's what Success KPI was built around, the idea. And we're continually evolving because we have to, just like the industry is continually evolving. So we're excited because we pretty much every 4 weeks or so we have a new cut that comes out, and sometimes they're small things, sometimes they're big things, but we have some really, really exciting things coming up here in terms of product, in terms of partnerships and all that type of stuff that are going to be game changers, I think, especially in the receivables industry.
Very interesting. And it sounds like you guys are doing some really creative things. One of the things that we've talked about a little bit in the past was kind of analytics and AI and how all that starts to come together. And it's been my experience and the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people across the industry that AI, as it's been, kind of thrown around probably a little too loosely across our industry, doesn't always come with actionability, right? So a lot of times we talk about AI, and in the end, we're providing a 1 to 100 score, right? And then leaving it to the the end user to figure out what that means or how to take action on that. So what are you guys doing that's a little bit different maybe in order to kind of leverage some of that intelligence and to take that data, mix it, match it, and not just provide a score, but provide some actionable items by which your customers can use to be successful?
Yeah, so the way that we use artificial intelligence, we use really truly kind of two main sciences within kind of the AI world, which would be the natural language processing, natural language understanding science, as well as machine learning.
Mhm.
In the NLU world, we actually couple that to some extent with our machine learning in really kind of very tactical ways. So one interesting way that is something that is, I think, fairly unique to us is what we do is when you're trying to build a speech analytics tool, right? There's a process where you're tuning and training, right? So you're creating some baseline topics, so things that your engine should be looking for and what those things mean. But from that baseline, it's a highly manual and labor intensive process to make those topics or those phrases that you're looking for really accurate and really robust, right? So a very simple thing would be like empathy, right?
Mhm.
I'm looking for a topic of empathy. And empathy, as we all know, is a hugely massive word, right? There's so many
Sure.
different phrases and things that can fit inside there.
Mhm.
And which is where a lot of organizations just get kind of, they get paralyzed with how do I figure this out? And then they probably have to go out and find a data scientist and a speech specialist and try to figure out how to make this better, right? Because
Mhm.
speech analytics tools don't come with all of that built in. They give you the architecture and they say good luck,
Mhm.
or pay me a whole bunch of money and I'll tune and train it for you. So the way that we differentiate is within our platform, we have a thing called phrase recommendation, where our AI engine is constantly kind of looking for phrases that are similar
Mhm.
to or we feel that are inside the topic range of, say, empathy, right? And then through machine learning, we're able to actually go across the larger group of data and say, okay, does it truly work? And so in phrase recommendation, we'll present you more and more basically every single day. We'll listen to conversations. And then in the background, as we're hearing things that may be empathetic in terms of a phrase, we'll
Mhm.
present them to you, and then you can just pick and add them, or you can actually test them. So you can actually take that phrase, put it into our test environment, and it's a really pretty simple, cool thing. Is like you just basically put the phrase in, hit test phrase. If it turns green under that topic that you're trying, it'll actually it means that it's tight enough within that topic for you to be able to use. So that's like a very tactical way that we're using, artificial intelligence to make your topic and phrases more accurate, more robust, without creating more investment, more infrastructure to have to support. So that's really a kind of to your point, like actionable things. People kind of throw those terms around, and you and I have had long conversations of how frustrating it is,
Mhm.
where people kind of throw AI around, and it's just like that's not, or it is, but like let's expand on that a little bit. Um, so yeah, so that's an interesting way. The other really big kind of actionable piece, and I wouldn't really necessarily call this artificial intelligence, but it is operationalizing data, is our playbook builder.
Okay.
And it's one of our kind of core tools inside our platform. And playbook builder is really, it's the next level of what a speech analytics tool, we believe a speech analytics tool should be, which is there's the listening and the analyzing of the data, right? So I'm understanding topics. I'm translating those topics or phrases into an understanding of like a theme or something where I'm trying to kind of put some human understanding around it.
Okay.
But but the way playbooks builds in is it takes those building blocks and adds action around it. So a very simple one would be like, if I'm a quality assurance manager, right, and I am required to have 10 calls listened to per agent per week, right, or per month, whatever that frame is. And currently right now, quality management is really more of a check the box thing. It doesn't, in most organizations we've seen, doesn't really provide great insights. It's, I'm trying to make sure that people aren't doing crazy, terrible things in the 1% of the calls that I'm able to actually listen to. So where our playbook builder takes it to the next level is, if you're really truly trying to look for specific things happening in conversations, playbook builder can actually use a speech analytics tool to look for those specific things and then feed those specific calls to the quality assurance agent for them to listen to. So instead of a random 10 calls, they're listening to 10 calls of very, very specific things that they're looking for in conversations. So it translates or transforms that kind of check the box quality management process into a true qualitative lift. I'm firing the right things to these agents to be listened to, so that now I'm hearing things that they should or shouldn't be saying within those conversations, and actually able to do something with it. So those are kind of my, two examples. There's a whole bunch of different things.
A whole breadth of examples there. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? So I guess my last question for you is kind of, as we talk about the disparate systems, right? And we talk about how all this data starts to come together. So you guys are not just pulling this from one location. You're looking at maybe data attributes from one system, call recordings from another system, where you may be further filtering down those calls so that you can focus, or that the live agent or live quality assurance can be focusing on more specific information. You may be looking at payment processing and the timing of those payments and other things. So, how are you guys reaching into all these different places in order to draw that information and create actionable intelligence?
Yeah. So the first layer is, with any large contact center, right? There's kind of really two main heartbeats in an organization, right? Number one, it's usually their CCaaS platform, right? So it's Genesys, it's AWS Connect, it's UJET, it's LiveVox, it's, TalkDesk. It's these big CCaaS platforms that handling the channels to a lot of extent, handling a lot of the data flow in terms of kind of what's happening within the actual call, or the quantitative aspects of the call. And then the other piece is, right, the CRM, right, the system of record. And what a real, get on my soapbox here, a true SaaS company within the contact center space has to have the ecosystems built and the APIs built to connect with the vast majority of all those major players as step one. If you don't have those pre-built integrations and the buy-in from those organizations that you're providing value to them, then you're already, 3 years behind, honestly. So the step one that we've done is we've built all those integrations with the main CRM systems, your sales forces, those types of things, your workforce management tools like your Workdays, but especially with like the CCaaS platforms, right? Like LiveVox and Genesys and AWS Connect and those things, right?
Okay.
So once you have that baseline, you in many cases have 60, 70% of the data where you want it to be. The connectors, you have it, the kind of the, we'll call it the frame of the house. It's there, and foundation. So to finish it off, you need the rest of the ecosystem. So what we've done, which is no different than I think some of the other really true SaaS platforms, is you have to build basically a marketplace of other pre-built connectors. So, those can be direct to vendor stuff, like I told you, like the Workdays and those types of things. But I think even more importantly is having really, really well-structured processes to other databases. So one of the main things we use, we call it contact center other, is an S3 bucket, which is just a way of Amazon, AWS kind of import export data flow. And so through pre-built ecosystem of connectors, or using things like a fairly out of the box S3 process, you can cover 90% of really every kind of data flow that you want. And as long as you have the ability to normalize, distill, understand that data on your side, and the tools within your BI tool to actually join and create calculations around that data, that's where, to your point, that's where data turns into intelligence, right? And that's where, a true BI tool as opposed to a pivot table are two different things.
Two different
right?
worlds.
Right. So yeah, so that's how we approach kind of the joining of data.
Very interesting, Nathan, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and having a chat with me today. I learned something from every conversation that we have, and I look forward to seeing you present at probably every other conference I'll be at this year. But I really do enjoy getting a chance to chat with you both as a friend and as a colleague, because you just have such a great insight into the artificial intelligence, the use of data, actionable intelligence, disparate systems. I mean, these are just the presentations I can think of that I've seen you do off the top of my head in the past couple of months. So again, I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me today.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. So for those of you that are watching, if you have any additional questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to leave those in the comments below, both here on YouTube and LinkedIn. Nathan and I will be happy to respond to those. If you have additional topics that you'd like to see us cover, you can leave those in the comments below as well. But until next time, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.